First contact and misunderstanding. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Captain Sarah Chen as she gazed through the reinforced windows of Celestial Nexus, humanity's most advanced space station. The station hung in low Earth orbit, a shining beacon of human ingenuity and a symbol of Earth's readiness to join the galactic community. Sarah absently scratched behind the ears of her golden retriever, Buddy, who sat loyally by her side. "Well, boy," she murmured, "today's the big day. Our first official alien visitor." As if on cue, a sleek, silver spacecraft materialized in the distance, its hull gleaming in the sunlight reflected off Earth's atmosphere. Sarah straightened her uniform and gave Buddy a final pat. "Stay," she commanded gently, and the dog obediently sat as she strode towards the docking bay. The alien ship docked with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. Sarah stood at attention, flanked by a small welcoming committee of scientists and diplomats. The airlock cycled open, revealing a tall, willowy figure. The alien that emerged was breathtaking. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, its body was covered in iridescent scales that shimmered with every movement. 4 arms extended from its torso, and its head was adorned with feather-like sensory organs that twitched and swayed. "Welcome to Earth," Sarah said, bowing slightly. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen, commander of Celestial Nexus." The alien's multifaceted eyes blinked in a rippling pattern. "Greetings, Captain Chen. I am Ambassador Zixlith of the Galactic Confederation. We are pleased to finally make official contact with your species." As they exchanged pleasantries and began the tour of the station, Sarah couldn't help but notice the ambassador's fascination with every detail of human technology and culture. Zixlith asked countless questions, absorbing information at an astonishing rate. Their tour eventually led them to Sarah's personal quarters. As the door slid open, Buddy, who had been waiting patiently, bounded forward to greet his owner. In an instant, the atmosphere changed dramatically. Ambassador Zixlith let out a piercing shriek, all 4 arms flailing in panic. The alien backpedaled so quickly it nearly fell, sensory feathers standing on end in what Sarah could only assume was abject terror. "What is that monster?" Zixlith cried, voice trembling. "Captain Chen, why do you harbor such a dangerous creature on your station?" Sarah blinked in surprise, looking down at Buddy, who sat with his head tilted in confusion, tail wagging uncertainly. She couldn't help but laugh, which only seemed to heighten the ambassador's distress. "Ambassador Zixlith, please calm down," Sarah said, struggling to keep a straight face. "This isn't a monster. This is my dog, Buddy. He's a pet, a companion animal from Earth." The ambassador's feathers slowly settled, but Zixlith remained pressed against the far wall. "A pet. You keep predators as companions." Sarah knelt beside Buddy, running her hand through his golden fur. "Dogs aren't predators, at least not anymore. Humans domesticated them thousands of years ago. They're loyal, intelligent, and affectionate animals that have been by our side throughout our history." Zixlith's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly, processing this information. "Fascinating. In all our galactic travels, we've never encountered a species that forms such bonds with other animals. May I observe it more closely?" Sarah nodded, gesturing for the ambassador to approach. Zixlith moved forward hesitantly, all 4 eyes fixed on Buddy. The dog, for his part, remained calm, his tail thumping gently against the floor. "You can pet him if you'd like," Sarah offered. "He's very friendly." With exquisite caution, Zixlith extended one of its lower arms. Buddy sniffed the alien appendage curiously, then gave it a gentle lick. The ambassador jerked back in surprise, then slowly reached out again, this time making contact with Buddy's fur. "It's soft," Zixlith said, wonder evident in its voice. "And warm. How remarkable." As the ambassador continued to pet Buddy, visibly relaxing, Sarah smiled. This, she thought, was what first contact was all about: breaking down barriers, challenging assumptions, and finding common ground. Their moment of interspecies bonding was interrupted by a sudden, urgent beeping from Sarah's communication device. She frowned, tapping the screen to bring up the message. Her eyes widened as she read its contents. "Ambassador," she said, her voice tight with sudden tension, "I'm afraid our tour will have to be cut short. We've just received an emergency transmission from one of our deep space outposts. There's something you need to see." Zixlith straightened, all trace of the earlier levity gone. "What is it, Captain?" Sarah's face was grim as she met the alien's gaze. "It appears that Earth isn't the only planet in danger. Whatever's out there, it's threatening the entire galaxy." As if sensing the shift in mood, Buddy pressed closer to Sarah's side, a low whine escaping his throat. Sarah scratched his ears absently, her mind racing with the implications of the message. "Come with me, Ambassador," she said, already striding towards the door. "We need to get to the command center immediately. It seems our two species may need to work together sooner than we anticipated." As they hurried through the station's corridors, Buddy trotting faithfully at their heels, neither human nor alien could have predicted the extraordinary adventure that lay ahead, one that would test the limits of their courage, challenge their preconceptions, and forge an unlikely alliance that would shape the fate of the galaxy. Diplomatic mission gone awry. The command center of Celestial Nexus buzzed with frantic activity as Captain Sarah Chen and Ambassador Zixlith entered. Holographic displays flickered with incoming data streams, and the air was thick with tension. Buddy, sensing the gravity of the situation, stayed close to Sarah's side, his usual playful demeanor replaced by quiet vigilance. "Report," Sarah barked, striding to the central console. A young lieutenant snapped to attention. "Captain, we've received a distress signal from Outpost Sigma. They've detected an unknown entity approaching at faster than light speeds. It's massive, sir, unlike anything we've ever seen." Sarah turned to Zixlith, whose feathery sensory organs were quivering with what she now recognized as anxiety. "Ambassador, have you encountered anything like this before?" Zixlith's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. I fear I may know what this is, Captain. We call them the Void Eaters. They are ancient, unfathomably powerful beings that consume entire star systems. We thought they were merely legend, but if they're real—" The ambassador's words trailed off, but the implication was clear. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had only just stepped onto the galactic stage, and already they faced an existential threat. "What can we do?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. Zixlith's four arms moved in a complex gesture that Sarah interpreted as deep thought. "There are ruins, artifacts left by an ancient civilization that once fought the Void Eaters. If we could find one, perhaps we could discover a way to stop them." Sarah nodded decisively. "Then that's what we'll do. Ambassador, I'm officially requesting your assistance in this mission. Will you help us?" "Of course, Captain," Zixlith replied without hesitation. "The fate of all our peoples hangs in the balance." Within hours, Sarah had assembled a small crew and prepared her personal ship, the Stargazer, for departure. As they made final preparations, Sarah knelt beside Buddy. "I'm sorry, boy," she said softly, scratching behind his ears. "I can't take you with us this time. It's too dangerous." But as she turned to leave, Buddy let out a mournful whine and grabbed the sleeve of her uniform gently in his teeth. Sarah looked into his soulful brown eyes and felt her resolve weaken. "Captain," Zixlith interjected, having observed the exchange. Perhaps your companion should join us. In my short time observing him, I've noticed his acute senses and unwavering loyalty. Such qualities could prove invaluable on our mission." Sarah raised an eyebrow, surprised by the ambassador's suggestion. But as she considered it, she realized Zixlith had a point. Buddy was more than just a pet. He was a partner who had been by her side through countless challenges. "All right," she said finally. "Welcome aboard, Buddy." As they boarded the Stargazer, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were embarking on a journey that would change everything. The ship's engines hummed to life, and with a final glance at the Earth hanging like a blue jewel in the void, they shot into hyperspace. Their destination was a remote system on the edge of known space, where Zixlith believed they might find one of the ancient artifacts. As they traveled, the ambassadors shared what little was known about the Void Eaters and the civilization that had once fought them. They were called the Luminaries, Zixlith explained, gesturing with all four arms as it spoke, a species so advanced that their technology seemed like magic to other races. They created a network of devices throughout the galaxy, each capable of harnessing the energy of a star. But they vanished millennia ago, leaving only ruins and legends behind. As Zixlith spoke, Buddy lay at Sarah's feet, his ears perked up as if he understood every word. Sarah absently stroked his fur, finding comfort in his presence as she grappled with the weight of their mission. After several days of travel, they arrived at their destination, a desolate planet orbiting a dying red dwarf star. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship's sensors detected a faint energy signature emanating from the surface. "That must be it," Sarah said, guiding the stargazer towards the source of the signal. They landed near the entrance of what appeared to be an ancient temple, its once grand architecture now crumbling and half buried in the planet's red sand. As they disembarked, Buddy's nose twitched, picking up unfamiliar scents. "Stay close, everyone," Sarah ordered, drawing her weapon. "We don't know what we might find in there." They entered the temple cautiously, Zixlith's bioluminescent scales providing a soft glow in the darkness. As they ventured deeper, strange symbols carved into the walls began to pulse with a faint blue light. Suddenly, Buddy's ears pricked up, and he let out a low growl. Before Sarah could react, the floor beneath them gave way, plunging them into darkness. They tumbled down a smooth, twisting chute, landing hard in a cavernous chamber deep beneath the surface. As Sarah struggled to her feet, she heard Zixlith gasp. Following the ambassador's gaze, she saw what had caused such a reaction. In the center of the chamber stood a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with energy. "The Starforge," Zixlith whispered in awe. "I never thought I'd see one with my own eyes." But before they could approach the artifact, a deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. "Who dares to enter the sanctum of the Luminaries?" A figure materialized before them, translucent and glowing with an inner light. It appeared humanoid, but its features were difficult to discern, as if looking at a star given vaguely human form. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of Earth. We've come seeking help against a threat to the entire galaxy." The figure's glow intensified. "The Void Eaters have awakened once more, haven't they?" Sarah nodded, and the being seemed to sigh, the sound like wind through crystal chimes. "Then the time has come, as it was foretold. But the trial awaits. To wield the power of the Starforge, you must prove yourselves worthy." The chamber began to shift and change around them, reality itself seeming to warp and twist. Sarah felt Buddy press against her leg, whining softly, and she laid a reassuring hand on his head. "What must we do?" she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The luminary's voice echoed once more as the chamber transformed into a swirling vortex of energy. "Face your greatest fears, confront your deepest truths, and emerge united. Only then can you hope to stand against the darkness that comes." As the vortex engulfed them, Sarah grabbed hold of Buddy with one hand and Zixlith with the other. Whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together. The fate of the galaxy depended on it. Trials of the Starforge. The swirling vortex of energy dissipated, leaving Sarah, Zixlith, and Buddy in what appeared to be a vast, empty void. Pinpricks of light surrounded them, giving the illusion of floating in space. Sarah's hand instinctively tightened on Buddy's collar, while her other arm was intertwined with one of Zixlith's four limbs. "Where are we?" Sarah asked, her voice echoing strangely in the emptiness. Zixlith's sensory feathers twitched. "I believe we are within the Starforge itself, Captain." The trials the luminary spoke of, They must take place here. As if in response to Zixlith's words, the void around them began to shift. The pinpricks of light coalesced, forming shapes and scenes. Sarah found herself standing on the bridge of a starship, alarms blaring and red emergency lights flashing. "No," she whispered, recognizing the scene. "Not this." It was the Horizon, the ship she had served on as a young officer. The day it had been attacked by space pirates, the day she had lost her mentor and half the crew. "You couldn't save them," the voice whispered in her mind. "You weren't good enough, fast enough, smart enough. How can you hope to save the galaxy when you couldn't even save your own crew?" Sarah's breath came in short gasps as she relived the terror and helplessness of that day. But then she felt a warm, furry body press against her leg. Buddy looked up at her, his brown eyes full of unwavering trust and love. "No," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. "I couldn't save everyone that day. But I learned from it. I grew stronger, more determined. I honor their memory by protecting others, by never giving up." The scene around her shimmered and faded, replaced by the void once more. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Next to her, Zixlith was trembling, all four arms wrapped tightly around its body. The void around the ambassador had taken on a sickly green hue, filled with writhing, shadowy forms. "The Void Eaters," Zixlith whispered, terror evident in its voice. "They're here. They found us. They'll consume everything." "Ambassador," Sarah said firmly, placing a hand on Zixlith's shoulder. "It's not real. This is your trial. You need to face your fear." Zixlith's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. But how? "The Void Eaters are unstoppable. My people have lived in fear of them for millennia." "Are they, though?" Sarah challenged. "We're here, aren't we? Seeking a way to stop them. The luminaries fought them before. Nothing is truly unstoppable." Buddy, sensing Zixlith's distress, moved closer to the alien, offering his silent support. Zixlith looked down at the dog, then back at Sarah. "You're right," Zixlith said, straightening its posture. "Fear has blinded my people for too long. But no more. We will face this threat together." The green hue faded, the shadowy forms dissipating like smoke. Zixlith's scales glowed brighter, as if reflecting a newfound inner strength. Suddenly, Buddy let out a sharp bark. The void around them was changing again, but this time it was different. Instead of a personal trial, they found themselves in what appeared to be a holographic representation of the galaxy. A booming voice, reminiscent of the luminary they had encountered, filled the space around them. "You have faced your inner demons and emerged stronger. But the true test lies ahead. The Void Eaters approach, and you must make a choice." The galactic map zoomed in on two systems. One was Earth and its neighboring planets. The other was a system Sarah didn't recognize, but Zixlith gasped in recognition. "My homeworld," the ambassador whispered. The luminary's voice continued. "The Void Eaters will strike soon, but the Starforge can only be used to protect one system. You must choose which to save." Sarah felt her heart drop. How could they make such an impossible choice? Save Earth, her home, everything and everyone she had ever known. Or save Zixlith's people, an entire civilization that had been part of the galactic community for far longer. She looked at Zixlith, seeing the same agonizing conflict reflected in the alien's eyes. Buddy whined softly, sensing the tension in the air. "No," Sarah said suddenly, her voice ringing out with determination. "I reject this choice." "Captain?" Zixlith questioned, confusion evident in its voice. Sarah stood tall, addressing the void around them. "We didn't come all this way, face our deepest fears, just to sacrifice one world for another. There has to be another way." She knelt down, running her hand through Buddy's fur, as she often did when thinking deeply. "The Starforge harnesses the power of a star, right? Well, what if we could amplify that power? Use multiple Starforges?" Zixlith's sensory feathers stood on end with excitement. "Of course. The luminaries built a network of these devices throughout the galaxy. If we could activate them all simultaneously, we could create a shield large enough to protect the entire galaxy. Sarah finished, a smile spreading across her face. The void around them shimmered, and the luminary's form appeared once more, its glow brighter than before. You have passed the final test, not through sacrifice, but through unity and innovation. You have proven yourselves worthy of the Starforge's power. The simulated galaxy faded away, leaving them once again in the cavernous chamber beneath the ancient temple. But now, the crystalline Starforge pulsed with vibrant energy, responding to their presence. The path ahead will not be easy, the luminary warned. You must race against time to activate the Starforge network before the Void Eaters strike. But you have shown that together, you possess the strength, courage, and ingenuity to face this threat. Sarah looked at Zixlith, then down at Buddy, who wagged his tail encouragingly. "We're ready," she said, her voice filled with determination. As they approached the Starforge, its energy enveloping them in a warm glow, Sarah knew that their real journey was only just beginning. But with her unlikely allies by her side, an alien diplomat and a loyal Earth dog, she felt ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw at them. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the race against the Void Eaters was about to begin. Race against the Void. The Stargazer shot through hyperspace, its engines pushed to their limits. Inside, Captain Sarah Chen pored over holographic maps of the galaxy, each pulsing dot representing a Starforge they needed to activate. Beside her, Ambassador Zixlith's 4 arms moved in a blur, inputting calculations and coordinating with its homeworld. "We've managed to alert most of the major galactic powers," Zixlith reported. "They're scrambling ships to the nearest Starforges, but it may not be enough. The Void Eaters are moving faster than we anticipated." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we'll just have to move faster. How many Starforges have we activated so far?" 17, Zixlith replied. "But we need at least 30 to create a galaxy-wide shield." A low whine drew Sarah's attention. Buddy sat at her feet, his eyes full of concern. She reached down to scratch behind his ears, drawing comfort from his presence. "We'll make it," she said, as much to herself as to her companions. "We have to." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Sarah rushed to the main console, her heart racing. "What is it?" Her helmsman's voice was tight with fear. "Captain, we've got a problem. A Void Eater has been detected near the Andromeda arm. It's heading straight for a populated system." Sarah's mind raced. The system in question housed one of the Starforges they needed to activate, but it was also home to billions of sentient beings. If the Void Eater reached it before they could power up the Starforge, "Set a course for the Andromeda arm," Sarah ordered. "Maximum speed. We need to get there before that thing does." As the Stargazer changed course, Sarah felt the familiar lurch of acceleration. She turned to Zixlith. "Ambassador, I need you to contact every ship in the vicinity. Tell them to converge on these coordinates. We're going to need all the help we can get." Zixlith nodded, its sensory feathers quivering with determination as it began sending out the call. Hours passed in tense silence as they raced towards their destination. Sarah found herself pacing the bridge, Buddy trotting faithfully at her heels. As they neared the threatened system, the ship's sensors began picking up the Void Eater. "On screen," Sarah commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, and collective gasps filled the bridge. The Void Eater was massive beyond comprehension, a roiling mass of darkness that seemed to devour light itself. Tendrils of void energy stretched out from its main body, reaching hungrily towards the nearby planets. "ETA to the Starforge?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. 10 minutes, Captain," her navigator replied. "But the Void Eater will reach the outer planets in 5. Sarah's mind raced. They were so close, but not close enough. "Unless—" "Zixlith," she said suddenly. "The Starforge draws power from stars. right? What if we could jumpstart it somehow? Give it a boost of energy to activate early. The ambassador's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly as it considered the idea. It's possible, but it would require an enormous amount of energy, more than our ship can produce. What about all of us together? Sarah gestured to the fleet of ships that had answered their distress call, now visible on the long-range scanners. If we all diverted power from our engines and weapon systems, would it be enough? Zixlith's sensory feathers stood on end with excitement. It just might work. But Captain, you must understand the risk. Diverting that much power will leave us defenseless if it fails. Sarah nodded grimly. It's a risk we have to take. Send out the instructions. Tell every ship to prepare to divert all non-essential power on my mark. As they approached the Starforge, Sarah could see the Void Eater looming ever larger on the view screen. Its tendrils had already enveloped the outermost planet, which seemed to crumble and fade from existence as they watched. Now, Sarah shouted, divert all power to the Starforge. The ship shuddered as its energy reserves were channeled into a single powerful burst. Around them, dozens of other ships did the same, their combined energy streaming towards the ancient device. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a flash of light that rivaled the system's sun, the Starforge burst into life. A shimmering barrier of energy expanded outward at impossible speed, enveloping the threatened planets. The Void Eater's tendrils slammed into the barrier, causing it to flicker and waver. Sarah held her breath, silently urging the shield to hold. Buddy pressed against her leg, a low growl rumbling in his throat, as if he too was willing the barrier to stay strong. Finally, with a silent screech that they felt rather than heard, the Void Eater recoiled. Its massive form writhed in what seemed like pain or frustration before it began to retreat. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, kneeling down to hug Buddy tightly. "We did it, boy," she whispered. "We really did it." But their celebration was short-lived. Zixlith's voice cut through the jubilation, its tone urgent. "Captain, we've received a priority transmission from Earth. The Void Eaters, they're amassing for a final assault. Dozens of them, converging on the Milky Way." Sarah straightened, her face set with determination. "Then that's where we're going. We've proven the Starforge network can work. Now we just need to activate them all before it's too late." As the Stargazer prepared to jump back into hyperspace, Sarah looked out at the stars. They had won a battle, but the war for the galaxy's survival was far from over. With Buddy at her side and Zixlith at her back, she steeled herself for the final confrontation. The fate of every living being in the galaxy now rested in their hands, and Sarah Chen, a human captain with her loyal dog and an alien ambassador, was ready to fight until her last breath to save them all. The final stand. The Milky Way glittered before them, a spiral of stars and worlds that had been humanity's home since time immemorial. But now, at its edges, darkness gathered. The Void Eaters, dozens of them, their massive forms blotting out entire star systems as they approached. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Stargazer, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Beside her, Ambassador Zixlith's four arms worked tirelessly, coordinating the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from every sentient species had answered the call, setting aside centuries-old rivalries in the face of annihilation. At Sarah's feet, Buddy sat alert, his ears perked up as if he could sense the gravity of the moment. Sarah reached down to scratch behind his ears, drawing strength from his unwavering presence. "Status report," Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Her tactical officer responded, 28 Starforges activated, Captain. We need 2 more to complete the network." Sarah nodded grimly. "And the Void Eaters? ETA to the outer rim. 17 minutes. It was going to be close. Too close." Sarah turned to Zixlith. "Ambassador, we need options. How can we buy more time?" Zixlith's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly, its sensory feathers quivering with concentration. Perhaps we could use the activated starforges to create a partial shield. It won't stop them, but it might slow them down. Do it, Sara ordered. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Captain Chen. Prepare for engagement. Our job is to hold the line while the final starforges are activated. No matter what happens, we cannot let the Void Eaters break through. As the fleet moved into position, the partial shield flickered into existence. The Void Eaters slammed into it, their tendrils of dark energy probing for weaknesses. The shield held, but Sara could see it straining under the onslaught. 10 minutes to full network activation, her science officer reported. The Void Eaters redoubled their efforts, concentrating their attack on a single point of the shield. With a sound like shattering glass, they broke through. All ships, engage, Sara shouted. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from 100 different worlds fought side by side, their weapons seeming pitiful against the vast darkness of the Void Eaters. Yet they fought on, buying precious seconds with their lives. The stargazer shuddered as it took a glancing blow from a Void Eater's tendril. Alarms blared across the bridge. Hull breach on Deck 3. Someone shouted. Reroute power to shields, Sara ordered. She turned to Zixlith. How much longer? 5 minutes, the ambassador replied, its voice strained. But Captain, I don't think we can hold them that long. Sara gritted her teeth, watching as ship after ship winked out of existence on her tactical display. They were so close, but it wasn't going to be enough. Suddenly, Buddy let out a sharp bark. He ran to the science station, pawing at the console insistently. What is it, boy? Sara asked, following him. Her science officer looked up, eyes wide with sudden realization. Captain, I think he's onto something. Look at these readings from the starforges we've activated. Sara studied the display, her heart racing as she understood. They're resonating, like they're trying to connect, but can't quite reach. Zixlith moved closer, its sensory feathers standing on end. Of course, the starforges were designed to work as a network. If we could boost the signal somehow, make them resonate at the right frequency, we could activate the entire network at once, Sara finished. She turned to her engineer. Can we do it? Use our deflector dish to amplify the resonance. The engineer nodded hesitantly. Maybe, but it would take all our power. We'd be defenseless. Sara looked out at the battle raging around them, at the Void Eaters pressing ever closer. Then she looked down at Buddy, who gazed back with complete trust in his eyes. Do it, she said. Divert all power to the deflector dish, and send the calculations to the rest of the fleet. Every ship with the capability needs to do the same. As the stargazer's systems powered down, leaving them vulnerable, Sara held her breath. The ship vibrated as the deflector dish powered up, sending out a pulse of energy tuned to the Starforge frequency. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, points of light began to appear across the galaxy map. The Starforges were activating, their energy linking up across vast distances. The Void Eaters sensed the change, their attacks becoming more frenzied. A tendril of void energy lashed out, heading straight for the defenseless stargazer. Sara closed her eyes, bracing for impact, but it never came. She opened her eyes to see a shimmering barrier of energy surrounding the ship, expanding outward at impossible speed. The Starforge network had activated just in time. The barrier swept across the galaxy, pushing the Void Eaters back. Where it touched them, the creatures seemed to unravel, their dark energy dissipating into harmless particles. Cheers erupted across the bridge, across the entire fleet. Sara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, kneeling down to hug Buddy tightly. You did it, boy, she whispered. You saved us all. In the days that followed, as the galaxy celebrated its salvation, Sara found herself standing before the newly formed Galactic Council. Zixlith stood beside her, and Buddy sat faithfully at her feet. Captain Chen, the council leader, spoke, his voice resonating through the grand chamber. You and your crew have accomplished the impossible. You've united the galaxy and defeated a threat we thought unbeatable. How can we ever repay you? Sarah looked down at Buddy, then at Sixlith, whose multifaceted eyes shimmered with what she now recognized as pride and affection. There's no need for repayment, Sarah said. What we've achieved, we achieved together. Humans, aliens, and yes, even dogs. She smiled as Buddy's tail thumped against the floor. We've proven that our differences are our strength. That together, we can face any challenge the universe throws at us. As applause filled the chamber, Sarah felt a sense of hope she'd never experienced before. The galaxy had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, more united. And whatever the future held, she knew they would face it together. With a loyal dog at her side, an alien friend at her back, and the stars stretching out before her, Captain Sarah Chen was ready for the next adventure. The end.